and they are suspect into custody. So at this time, that scene is very active. The word found, don't let that fool you, very much active. Just because they know and have the suspect surrounded does not mean that the danger is gone. So please stick with us here. We're awaiting updates. We're hoping that any minute now we'll hear them say they've got this person, that things are now secure. But until that happens, we're going to stay right here with you and make sure that you are getting the updates at the same rate that we are and as police are putting them out, so that we can make sure everyone gets home safely and that this person does not cause harm to anyone more than the 3 officers that have already been shot in this incident. Again, our Matthew Seedorf live on the scene where the shooting initially occurred, a shootout with police. And Matthew, I know you've been awaiting an update from the Houston Police Department. Have you gotten further detail?
We're just hearing from witnesses right now. If you don't mind, we can show you. This is kind of, you can see the scene right on the other side of this van, the police cars and the caution tape. It really goes for blocks as there was a police chase. But I was also just talking with this man. His name is Samuel. Samuel, you were out here, you were outside when this chase happened.
Yes, sir. I was here standing right here by the corner. And me and my brother were just talking, and we hear the car chasing by the police officers, and we start hearing all this noise of gunshots. I think it's like 100 shots, and I got the video. I started recording. I went that way, and I just saw that all the police officers coming. So, man, I'll tell you, it was scary. And I also saw the police officer down right there on the side, on the parking lot. So, man.
That's so awful to witness. Did it look like the officer was okay?
I can't hardly tell. He was wounded, and somebody was helping the officer.
And this was a chase, so
yeah, I heard the noise from the freeway or something, and he came this way, right there in the corner, and that's where they stopped and they're starting shooting.
Did you by chance see what kind of vehicle the suspect was in? Did he get away?
It's a gray car. I think it's a Challenger, and I don't know how many passengers or just the driver. That's all I can tell right now.
Wow, just remarkable. What were you thinking? What was going through your mind?
Well, you don't see this every day, but I don't know what really happened, but it was pretty scary.
Yeah, glad you're safe. We're definitely hoping for the best for these officers. Sure. Yeah, Caitlin, Jonathan, just all these witnesses that are out here, really a community just kind of taking this in. A lot of people that weren't here are asking their neighbors what happened. Just a scary day for so many people here in the 3rd Ward. Go ahead and send it back to you.
Matthew, I do want to ask you, I've been seeing a couple of pictures pop up online of a police cruiser with bullet holes in it from that area. I know they're keeping you at a distance, but have you been able to see any of the cruisers, the police vehicles there? Do they appear that they've been shot up at any point?
Yeah, they are keeping us at a distance. About 15 minutes ago, we were 1 block over, and that's where the Dodge Charger was and the other police cars. We believe that's where the main shootout might have occurred, and I didn't get close enough to see if there were bullet holes in the car. But you can just see the massive police presence still out here and the caution tape, and the investigation really just beginning. It just sounds like it was really a chaotic day. Even now, we're still seeing police officers driving by in their motorcycles and just trying to piece this all together.
Yeah, understandably, they're keeping us at a distance so they can do their jobs. Matthew, we'll check back with you shortly. Thank you so much for that update.
Thank you.
All right, as we enter this half hour at 4:30, we do want to go ahead and recap in case you were just getting home, in case you were just joining us. 3 Houston police officers have been shot. The shooting happened just around 2:30 or 3 o'clock today. You can see from the map this happened right here right near downtown, near the 5th Ward area, where the 3 officers were apparently responding to a disturbance call which led to, I should say, a chase of a suspect who then fired at those 3 officers. The 3 officers hit. They've all been taken to Memorial Hermann Hospital, where we just did hear from our Randy Wallace, where he's awaiting an update on their conditions. We did hear from one police source that at least one of the officers was shot in the leg and appears to be okay, but will have to undergo surgery. Now, again, we do have a live picture of the other scene there, which is what you're seeing in the bigger box to your left. This is at Lockwood and Lyons. That is where police, from what we're hearing, have located this 31-year-old suspect. They have located him in this area. According to officers there on the scene, he has now barricaded himself inside some type of building or apartment complex there, and SWAT is on the scene actively working So that is why we're keeping a bit of a distance, because this is very much an active scene as they are working to get this suspect into custody safely.
And Jonathan, as you mentioned earlier, that suspect has, we understand, fired at least one shot reportedly in this interaction with SWAT. So we are concerned for the safety of everyone in the area, and law enforcement has been asking some people nearby to evacuate either their apartments or homes. You can see that CVS and shopping plaza right nearby as well. People might be redirected there. So this is a time where we're all being alert, watching out as you're moving through. And if you have anyone who commutes through 5th Ward and is maybe hasn't been keeping up or may not be aware, make sure you're sending them a message, sending them a text, so that they can know to be careful, know to watch out, and know that they might need a little extra time. And that's the patience that's well worth it when we're able to give law enforcement the space to do the work they need to do to make sure that we can be safe again in this area. So just make sure you're sending them updates. Make sure if they can tune in from wherever they are. Make sure you stick with us. Again, right where Matthew is where we are expecting to hear from police soon with an official update. There's a public information officer there.
Just getting an update tweeted out by Houston Police literally 30 seconds ago. They're saying our 3 injured officers are in stable condition. That's certainly good news. Obviously bad news that they've been hit, but better news that they are in stable condition. Also saying media partners Troy Finner will be providing a briefing with details on the incident at Memorial Hermann Hospital in the Texas Medical Center. So we do have a crew there. But again, the latest update just about 30 seconds ago from Houston Police, the 3 officers injured are in stable condition, and that we will hear an update rather from Troy Finner, the police chief, in just a moment from Memorial Hermann Hospital. So that is the very latest on their conditions. And
so far, again, just the 3 officers. We haven't heard of any additional injuries, but we might hear about anything further when we hear from the chief in just a little bit. Right now, the focus of concern and the focus of active law enforcement presence is at Lockwood and Lyons here in 5th Ward, where we are keeping our camera wide. We are not trying to reveal any of the law enforcement tactics that are underway as they try to get to this suspect who is barricaded. SWAT on the scene, tactical gear deployed, very active, because we understand it is still very dangerous with this suspect having fired a shot, having obviously injured 3 officers already today, and then chased across town with police. I mean, this has been a very dangerous afternoon, right in the middle of rush hour, Jonathan, when we have the most people who are moving and moving about town. So we want to make sure everyone's getting updates, and please make sure you're sending updates to those you love.
That's right. So again, we are watching watching this scene and obviously waiting for an update from Houston Police Chief Troy Finner, where in just a moment we understand he'll be speaking at Memorial Hermann Hospital, giving us an update on the investigation and an update on the officers who, again, at last check, from what we're hearing, at least from Houston Police, are in stable condition tonight. Again, we don't know the officers' identity. We don't know exactly who they are, and we don't know a whole lot about this suspect at this point either, other than he is a 31-year-old man. A 31-year-old suspect who they are trying to get into custody. We don't even know a whole lot about what led up to the chase and what led up to the shooting. We do know that apparently there was some type of disturbance call. Police responded to the area in 5th Ward. A chase ensued, and then that's when the shooting happened. So again, that's all we know at this point, but we expect to learn more just as soon as we hear from the police chief within this hour, we're understanding. You're also looking at a scene in the upper right box there, right near where the shooting happened, and you can see forensics teams and other investigators are on the scene processing what happened there. We just showed some video earlier this hour of the shooting that was captured by a cell phone, a viewer, someone in that area who was just there, and you could hear, Caitlin, what did we say, maybe 2 dozen?
It sounded like at least 2 dozen shots fired between police and the suspect. Unclear to us who was firing majority of those shots, who fired first. All of that is still unconfirmed. But at this time we do know a lot of shots have been fired, and potentially there's concern that more could be fired with this suspect not cooperating with police and SWAT now having to get involved.
And in that video, you could also see people running from the area. In that video, you could see, I believe, is the scene we're looking at in the upper right? That's still in that area. That's some of the investigators still talking. But from the video that we showed earlier, the cell phone video, you could see people in that community, in that area, just running away, because as you said, this happened in broad daylight in a very residential area, apartment complexes all around. So how frightening to be there. And obviously the suspect so brazen just to do something like that right in the middle of a community.
And Houston, I mean, we are just not a city for this kind of violence, and yet here we are seeing the number of homicides rivaling Chicago so far this year, seeing this kind of violence happening. This is blocks from Emancipation Park. That is a beautiful family amenity in our city, one of the greatest community resources that we have, and yet here we have someone willing to open fire right there with all these townhomes, with all these people nearby, and then you see what,
That's
you know, it's unclear at this time whether that is the suspect, whether that's someone who is nearby running. But at this time, you know, you can just see how close this was. Someone's filming that out their window. Someone is filming this violence out their window. So please be careful. If you filmed anything, if you saw this, if you're finding it on your doorbell camera, if you have a business nearby and you caught some of this on your surveillance footage, please be sending it to police first and foremost and giving them as much information as you have before sending it anywhere else. You know, that is what's so important, is that we're getting law enforcement all the details they need right now to secure everything. And you'll see them still out there investigating. Much of this area is still blocked in 3rd Ward, and many of us just left shaking our heads to see this kind of violence happening in broad daylight right near so many of our neighbors and friends in this community.
Yeah, it is just horrible. You know, I was talking with an officer earlier this afternoon before work at the gym, and we were just talking about the violence against officers. We've just been reporting on Corporal Galloway and his death, and then literally minutes later this happens. You come to work and then we're talking about this. 3 more officers shot after already a violent and deadly week.
This has been a tough one for our law enforcement community so far this year proving to be very dangerous for them. We appreciate those who are out there truly keeping us safe, working for the best of the community, and we appreciate all of the neighbors and the residents who have helped support them in this effort to try to find and identify this person who they've now identified and they've now surrounded. But at this time up in 5th Ward, just north of I-10, if you're near Lockwood and Lyons, you're seeing the scene. I'm sure you're hearing, and we understand there's a heavy law enforcement presence, lots of tactical gear. I mean, this is very active, still very concerned with safety. And those of you getting home near this area, if you live near Lockwood and Lyons, you may be redirected or you may not be able to get home depending on where you are as this scene continues. We're keeping our cameras wide. We're not trying to reveal too much of the tactical work law enforcement is actively doing in the event that anyone's watching and that aids them in avoiding law enforcement. That is not what we want to see happen. We want to see this dealt with quickly, and our law enforcement community is working hard to do that. We're doing our part to support it, and we appreciate all of you who've continued to do what you can, sending in any pictures, video to law enforcement first.
Absolutely. And as soon as Police Chief Troy Finner speaks, we of course will bring that to you live here on Fox 26 Houston. We do know that the chief is expected to speak within this hour. We did get an update just about 5 to 10 minutes ago from Houston Police telling us that the 3 officers who were shot are all in stable condition and are all at Memorial Hermann Hospital. We do know that the chief is at the hospital at this point, according to what we heard, and he will be providing a briefing again momentarily from the hospital, letting us know more about what unfolded and what is actually happening right now. But again, this is a map in case you're just trying to get a perspective of where this was and where this happened. So the shooting happened down right here, right to the bottom of your screen. That's right in the 5th Ward area, right near downtown.
Down there, sort of 3rd Ward, Midtown, up there in 5th Ward at the top where the suspect has been found. This has all moved very quickly, so everyone in that entire area and in between, you may have seen something, and you may have seen law enforcement move through with the chase that occurred. But you can see that shooting location was right near the highway, so people in Midtown may have been impacted. Traffic is being diverted, and that's fine as long as we all have the patience to be supportive of law enforcement. That's what matters at this time, is that we make sure that no one else gets hurt. But to see the violence span that much of our community right now, to have so many people now on alert, and you can see from this angle in particular, you can really see just how many residential buildings are right there next to where the law enforcement scene has been set up, where you can see how much is taped off, and we are keeping our cameras back so that we can let them do their work. As soon as we're able to get in closer safely, we will do that. But for the sake of our crews and for the sake of the supporting law enforcement, trying to give you as much of a perspective as we can. And of course, awaiting that update. We are awaiting an update from Houston Police Department. They're at the medical center. We have been told that the 3 officers who were shot are in stable condition, but we don't know any identities and we don't know further detail as to their injuries. So we are hoping to get more clarity on that within the next several minutes as we await that press conference from the chief of the Houston Police Department. Here you can see we have a scene. We have our camera live outside of the emergency room where those officers were taken at Memorial. And so if you're in the medical center, you know, you're already familiar with the lights, the sirens, the ambulances, keeping an eye out for those. Be aware that at this time we understand that there are no further injuries, but that the scene is still active with the individual who they're trying to get into custody. So there's the possibility for more violence, possibility of more injuries, and therefore all of us are standing by, staying tuned, and just be aware that you might see more of those flashing lights and that we need to give our law enforcement members as much space as they need to do their work should there be any other injuries, and anyone else needs to get to our incredible medical community who we know are going to take great care of them.
So again, we are understanding that the suspect still is not in custody. We just heard from a second police source confirming what mine had also said, that the suspect, the 31-year-old suspect, is still in this area holed up. According to police sources, he was shot in the neck during the shootout with police, which was happening at the other scene that you saw right near the 3rd Ward area. Again, we are also understanding that the suspect at some point in this area, right off Lockwood and Lyon, shot out of the window at police. So again, this is still a very active scene. They know who the suspect is, they know where he is, it seems, but they do not have him in custody, and that is why this is still an active scene with SWAT there trying to get him in custody safely. So again, we just want to make that clear that you may have heard reports that the suspect is in custody. No, he is located, but they still are waiting to get him in custody.
We have now heard from Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo, the leader of Harris County, saying she is saddened and absolutely outraged over this latest attack on our police. She goes on to say gun violence is out of control and weapons of war have no place on our streets. She says she's in touch with Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner and that she's giving her full support and anything that he or the Houston Police Department needs at this time. So the county is aware, the mayor is engaged, everyone doing what they can to support the many law enforcement officers on the scene, particularly up there in 5th Ward, Lockwood and Lyon, where the concern for violence is still there with this individual. Again, as Jonathan said, not in custody, but identified, found, and surrounded by SWAT, barricading himself, unfortunately, so causing them to have to do what they have to do to try to reach him and secure the scene.
Clearly knowing that he's still armed as he's been shooting out of the window, at least fired one shot at what we've heard. So obviously that changes the way they have to approach this situation in a very delicate manner, considering how dangerous he is with shooting 3 other officers at a separate location just earlier. So again, we are still staying on the air because we are still awaiting an update from Houston Police Chief Troy Finner any moment now. We understand he is there at Memorial Hermann Hospital where the 3 officers have been taken. All are said to be in stable condition. We don't know the specifics of their injuries, but again, stable condition is what we are hearing right now. And as soon as we learn more from the hospital, of course, we'll take you there live. But again, the scene that's unfolding live and active right now is where Caitlin mentioned, right here off Lockwood and Lyons, which is up closer to the 5th Ward area, correct, right up there, not far from downtown, where officers are right now, including SWAT officers and other authorities, waiting to get that suspect into custody safely, as he has obviously shown to be extremely dangerous, shooting out of a window at one point. So that's what we're watching right now.
So at this point, again, we have heard that the officers are in stable condition. No further injuries have been reported. But stick with us here live because we're hoping that within the next 15 minutes we'll hear from the chief of police. We have our Randy Wallace there outside of the hospital. He'll be getting us any updates on the condition of the officers, and that is where we are expecting to hear from the chief, is there at the hospital. We also have a reporter down on the scene where the shooting initially happened. That was McGowan and Hutchins Street in 3rd Ward, right near Emancipation Park. McGowan is a crossover street over the highway to Midtown, so you could see some traffic being diverted in 3rd Ward, in Midtown as well. Please be aware of that and sending notes to your loved ones as they're commuting home. We're just about 5 o'clock, so you've got a lot of people hitting the road, a lot of people on the road. Just make sure that they're aware that the scene has moved and could move again. We're hoping that things are going to stop right where they're at, that we're going to get a great update soon from 5th Ward, where law enforcement and SWAT are working with, we understand, the suspect surrounded, but there's the possibility that this could continue to move. And so we want to make sure that everyone's tuned in, staying alert. And this has moved around downtown. So anyone commuting on the east side of downtown or heading home or heading out to run errands, after school activities, whatever it may be, please make sure that they're staying tuning in. Our Fox 26 News app does live stream our programming, so if they want to tune in there, they can live stream. Fox is also available on any major streaming platform, TV streaming platform, so if they have a phone, if you have to be out and about, or if you're stuck somewhere, not sure whether you can head out, we're right here with you. We're going to get you those updates. At this time, it's the 2 scenes, and you're just being asked to stay away from those scenes at McGowan and Hutchins in 3rd Ward and Lockwood and Lyon in 5th Ward as we await confirmation as to whether there's any further concern. And those who are near those areas have already likely heard from law enforcement as to whether they need to evacuate, and those heading home to those areas will likely be instructed as to whether it's safe for them to go near the scenes or not.
Yeah, we'll hopefully get some of that information just in a few moments from Police Chief Troy Finner. But again, the shooting unfolded just a couple of hours ago right near Hutchison and McGowan. So that's what you're looking at, where the shooting happened right there in the 3rd Ward area. A chase ensued. We know that the suspect apparently got away in a white Mercedes. I'm also understanding it may have been a stolen vehicle, but that's not confirmed just at this point by Houston police. But that's where we're hearing from at least one law enforcement officer. Got away in a white Mercedes, and then the suspect was located where you can see in a different area closer to 5th Ward near downtown, where we were just showing you that live shot where SWAT is currently there working to get that suspect into custody. Clearly armed, clearly dangerous after shooting at the 3 officers, and that is the concern after he's apparently already fired at least one other shot out of a window where he's holed up, barricaded, we understand, somewhere. We're seeing a little bit of a closer shot there, but obviously, as Caitlin mentioned, we're not getting too close at this point while police continue to do their work and investigate. We don't want to impede on what they're doing right now, but obviously this is where they are looking for that suspect. They've apparently located him. They know he's a 31-year-old man. They believe he is the one who fired the shot at the officers. At this point, we're only hearing that there is one suspect, so this is where they're focused on right now, and we'll let you know, of course, if we hear anything more about him being in custody, but at this point we're hearing they're still looking.
And for those who are in these areas, as we've been mentioning, if you have a home security camera outside of your house, if you have a business with a camera, the white Mercedes and that gray Dodge Charger, the Dodge Charger crashed right there at the intersection of McGowan and Hutchins. That's where the shootout was, but had been being chased, we understand, from the Midtown area. So check your cameras. If you've got anything, if you saw anything, if you can turn that over to police right away, that could help them in this investigation. Also, I got a question from one of our viewers on Twitter asking about the white Mercedes. Police have been saying a white Mercedes was involved, as Jonathan was just mentioning. Someone asking us, well, more detail. What is the model? More specifically, we don't have that. We don't have a license plate number. We just know white Mercedes. From the sound of what we're seeing, it's likely whoever was driving it was not driving it to the speed limiter calmly. This was a residential area. They likely were fleeing the scene. So if you see anything on your cameras of a white vehicle that was moving from the 3rd Ward area up towards 5th Ward around the time of just after 3 o'clock, check the 3 o'clock hour because paramedics were on the scene just after 3. So that's how long this has been going on. More than an hour and a half now since this shooting happened. And this suspect has been evading police, barricading from police, and they have been working hard for this entire time to try to secure the area for all of us ahead of the commute. But here we are, almost 5 o'clock, asking everyone to stay tuned, ears open, eyes open, as we await more detail and anything further we can do. And then, of course, minutes from now, hoping to hear from the chief of police, who will be giving us an update down in the medical center. That's where our Randy Wallace has been working on updates on the condition of those 3 officers shot. We understand they're stable, but we're looking for any further detail. And again, no further injuries, just those 3 officers so far. But the possibility of additional injuries is still out there with this suspect not yet secured and taken into custody.
Yeah, we're just glad to hear that those officers are in stable condition. We obviously sometimes report on things being much worse, but of course we're waiting to get specifics from Chief Finner, as Caitlin mentioned. But these scenes very much still active. Again, police asking you to stay away from this area, even if you live in this area. I know a lot of people may be curious to find out what's going on, but they're asking you to really stay away at this point. And they've blocked off, in fact, this entire area near Lockwood where they're investigating where they believe the suspect is. We don't know specifically where he is, but we do know, according to sources there on the scene, that he is barricaded. He's barricaded himself inside some type of building, some type of residence there, and at one point did fire at least one shot. You can see a little movement there. You can see some vehicles moving around if you look closely, but that's pretty much law enforcement because they've told everyone to evacuate and leave that area if they are not a part of the SWAT scene. So you can see, as you see a little bit closer vantage point, I'm not exactly sure what's in that area. It looks like there are a couple homes, there may be even a church in that area, but again, we're not specific and also don't want to give away too much about where that suspect might be.
Mm-hmm. We are also seeing reports of details of the suspect's name and identity. Our team confirming that before we give that to you, just to make sure whether law enforcement wants to have that information out at this time or not. Our job, of course, to support them, see what we can do to make sure that they can get him into custody, but they know who they're looking for and they have secured the area. And so other than that, at this time, we haven't gotten confirmation. We're awaiting that confirmation and working on that in terms of the specific suspect they're looking for. We understand about 31 years old is what we've been told, so a younger man. But other than that, at this time, no further details have been confirmed by law enforcement to us. That could be part of the details we'll get. As you see there on the upper right-hand side of your screen, you see law enforcement beginning to, speaking with our cameras and with our team. Our Matthew Seedorf is on the scene gathering information from them. And then we are, of course, in the medical center awaiting that update from the Houston Police Chief. Troy Finner will be speaking shortly on the condition of those officers, and also hopefully giving us an update on anything we can all do to support the law enforcement and SWAT response surrounding that suspect right now, who again is in the 5th Ward area, Lockwood and Lyon. We understand some people have been told to evacuate their homes or apartments near that area because of concern for safety. We also see, as you see from our camera shot in the sky there, businesses right there nearby. So it's possible that if you're moving through this area, we're at a business in this area, work in this area, or commute through this area, you may be redirected. You might need a little extra time to get home, but that's all well and good if it means that our law enforcement community can do what they need to do. So please bring your patience, be ready. If you know someone who does commute through 5th Ward up here, this is just north of I-10. So Lockwood and Lyon is just north of I-10, just off of downtown. Make sure you're sending them a message. Make sure if they see anything or have any video, pictures, make sure you're sending all that to law enforcement first and foremost. That information, you never know, could be very key to them. We know that the county has reached out, is supporting law enforcement in this. The city of Houston, the mayor teaming up with the county judge as well to give them whatever resources needed. And we are right here waiting for that update, again, minutes away from the Houston Police Chief. So stick with us right here. Make sure that you're watching. Make sure you're following for any updates as we continue to monitor. But again, not a safe situation in this area, judging from the behavior of this suspect so far today. I mean, just awful.
Absolutely. And again, we're waiting to confirm his identity. We do know at this point he's a 31-year-old man. As soon as we confirm his name and more about him, of course, we're going to bring that to you. But again, Houston Police Chief Troy Finner, as Caitlin mentioned, is expected to give us an update any moment now. He is at the hospital, we understand, Memorial Hermann in the Texas Medical Center, where those 3 officers are in stable condition tonight. But still, just an awful situation, an awful scene here that has unfolded, especially by now. Many of you have probably seen the video of the shooting that happened, recorded by one of the neighbors there who was just out on his balcony and just happened to hear.
Right there. I mean,
right
can
there.
you imagine having to see that in your neighborhood?
Yeah, and just unfolding right there in the middle of the street. A residential area there where a lot of people live. So again, it's even hard to think that someone would do this and just be so brazen and bold to do it in an area right here as we're looking at the video again. And just listen to the gunshots. Yeah. So you can hear the gunshots. You can see people running. We don't know if that perhaps was a suspect who was first running, but clearly, you have officers, you have other people in the area who may have just been walking around, maybe just going about their day, and walking into a shootout where we heard rounds and rounds being fired.
Now we know this happened just several blocks north of Emancipation Park. That is a family-friendly park. That is a wonderful amenity in our community. And at this time, if you have people who are near the park, in the park, heading to the park, activities in the park, our understanding is that police are not closing the park. The park is open and available, but be alert, be aware that things are changing, and there's the possibility that police might redirect you if you're heading in that direction. And then, of course, up here, looking again live at the scene in 5th Ward at Lockwood and Lyons. This is where those three police officers who were shot in 3rd Ward. This is where that suspect who shot those officers fled to, and this is where we have SWAT and law enforcement, dozens of them on the scene with that suspect barricaded right now, and we have been told that that suspect has at least fired 1 shot, but potentially is still armed. And you can see law enforcement vehicles, heavy armor, tactical gear. There is a huge presence, huge sense of urgency here in this area, and that is why many people are being told to leave the area as they try to secure the area from this individual who has moved violently across town. The 3 officers who were shot, again, are in stable condition, but the possibility of more injuries is what law enforcement is concerned about with this person not yet taken into custody. Again, they have him identified, they have him surrounded, but at this time they do not have that suspect in custody.
And this has all been going on, Caitlin, for about the last 2.5 hours or so when we first came on air and have been covering this story. Again, this all started right here in the 3rd Ward area, right around Hutchinson and McGowan. We understand there was a disturbance call that led to a chase, a crash.
That chase came from Midtown, or at least partially through Midtown, as McGowan being a crossover street over the highway there. So people may have seen something there, but this has spanned 3 major neighborhoods now. Right,
exactly at this point, and that's where you're seeing right now. This is all ending, at least where we are now focused, or police are focused right here in Lyons and Lockwood, or right near Lyons and Lockwood in the 5th Ward area near downtown, where you can see there's still a heavy police presence as SWAT has now moved in, and they have been on the scene here for more than an hour now, working to get that suspect into custody. Again, we do know that the suspect is a 31-year-old man. We are working to confirm more about his identity, but police at this point have said that he is dangerous, according to sources on the scene. Very dangerous, and continues to be dangerous, as he apparently has fired at least 1 shot out of a window at that location. Officers at last check do not have him in custody. I just heard from an officer on the scene. He says no update. They still believe this man is barricaded inside a home or a building in that area. So again, police still working on the scene. My co-anchor Rashi Vatz is also joining me here live as we get ready for Fox 26 News at 5 o'clock. And this breaking news situation that we've been watching, Rashi, really for the last 2.5 hours or so, when we first heard that 3 officers had been shot. The last check we're hearing, though, at last check, we're hearing that these officers are now in stable condition.
That's right, and so that's good news to hear from them there. Just to give you a recap, this first happened at 2:40. That's when police officers say that they first got the call of a disturbance, and there was some sort of a high-speed chase, which ended up in the 3rd Ward area, and a gray Dodge Charger crashed, and that's when the confrontation happened. Somehow the suspect was able to get away, and sources are saying that he actually carjacked a white Mercedes, which is why we're talking about a white Mercedes being involved in this when he was in a Dodge Charger, and that led them to the location that they're at currently. And we do know that he has not been captured yet. We have reported that he's 31 years old, does have an extensive criminal history. We're working to confirm that name.
And our coverage continues right now on Fox 26 News at 5.
McGowan and 59 when they got shots fired. The officer got hit.
Hey, there's an officer down. There's an officer down out there.
Reporting an officer down.
And tonight here at 5, we do start with some breaking news. 3 Houston police officers have been shot.
Our coverage continues from earlier this afternoon, and we know that that suspect is holed up in an apartment building. It happened right about 3 this afternoon near downtown. We know law enforcement officers got the call at 2:40 for some type of disturbance. Sources saying that his name is Roland Caballero. And we do have team coverage for you tonight. Randy Wallace is at the hospital where the officers were taken. Gabby Hart where the suspect is. But tonight we do begin with Matthew Seedorf live at the scene at Hutchins and McGowan Streets. So what's happening there?
Well, right now there's just the police. The presence here is undeniable as they all just take this in. If you take a quick zoom in with the camera, you can see the police car that was involved with the chase. We've seen the cell phone video now. And then if you take a look to the right of that, that is the Dodge Charger that you can see in the cell phone video with having a shootout with police officers. You might even be able to see the bullet holes in the back of that Charger. Right now, just the police scene extends for blocks and blocks. It's just taped off going this direction, that way, pretty much every direction. There are police here just scoping this out. I did speak with witnesses. One person says that he thinks he heard over 100 shots. Just a massive, scary day of lots of gunfire out here on Houston's 3rd Ward. Good news is right now it does sound like the 3 injured police officers that were shot are going to be okay, but this is such a residential area. There are just apartments and buildings and homes all the way around here. It's just very fortunate right now that there was no one else injured, and we've seen police going door to door here, just double checking to see if anyone has any cell phone video or surveillance footage. But again, really just it sounds like a very scary day out here, and everyone out here right now is just thinking about those 3 injured officers. Go ahead and send it back to you.
Our Matthew Seedorf will be checking back with you as well. Thank you. And our Gabby Hart is standing by where the suspect is now holed up. This is at Lockwood and Lyon. So, Gabby, what can you tell us?
Yeah, here in Northeast Houston, I can tell you that numerous side streets are blocked off. I saw 30 to 40 cop cars blocking off these side streets over here. And then here behind us, we see SWAT officers, Houston police investigating. Now, sources tell us that the suspect could be barricading himself in an apartment in this area. We're still waiting on police to confirm that. But again, so much police presence in this area. You can tell they're taking this very seriously and have this entire area in the perimeter blocked off in search of the suspect, who we're told took off in a white Mercedes Benz. We have more information about that suspect on, of course, our website, fox26houston.com. We're going to be out here working to get more information from police about what exactly is going on here. And of course, as soon as we learn more, so will you. For now, I'm reporting live. Gabby Hart, Fox 26 News.
All right, Gabby, thank you. Well, Randy Wallace is in the medical center where the 3 injured officers were taken. Randy.
Rushy, we haven't gotten an official press conference, an official word here yet at the hospital, but Chief Finner and Mayor Turner have both tweeted that all 3 officers are in stable condition. So at least that's some good news. It doesn't appear that they sustained life-threatening injuries, and the mayor and the chief are asking all of us to pray for these 3 officers. Now, the suspect that's been identified in this is 31-year-old Roland Caballero. Now, this is a very dangerous, violent individual. He currently has 2 warrants out for his arrest for aggravated robbery and unlawfully carrying a weapon. He's been to prison several times. He has 5 felony convictions. And back in 2014, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. And again, obviously, this is a very dangerous man that they're trying to arrest as we speak. And again, we're still waiting to hear an official word here on those 3 officers. And we can't forget that here we are, 3 officers shot just this past Saturday. A Harris County Sheriff's Sergeant was killed by a suspected drunk driver. The Precinct 5 corporal was also executed basically over this past weekend. So here we have 5 instances in less than a week. I've been reporting for more than 30 years, and I cannot, off the top of my head, ever remember this many law officers being shot in different instances like this, and it's just, it's mind-boggling. But all we can really do at this point is pray for those officers, and again, we're waiting on an official word from Chief Finner, and Mayor Turner, I believe, is on his way here to the hospital, so we'll bring you that as soon as they come out here. Back to you.
All right, our Randy Wallace, thank you. And we are, of course, waiting an update, as he said, from Chief Finner. Just also got another text from an officer who was there on the scene. He says they're pushing the perimeter back even further there at Lockwood and Lyon because they do believe the suspect is armed with a rifle, so they want to make sure everyone is safe. So again, still very much an active situation. This guy is still dangerous. holdup. So again, we're going to be checking back with our sources, our reporters, and as soon as we hear from Chief Finner, we'll let you know.
Definitely. Well, some more news that we're following tonight. The fugitive that was caught yesterday in Mexico, who's charged with shooting a Precinct 5 corporal to death over the weekend, well, he's actually been on the run from Houston police much longer than just Saturday.
That's right. Oscar Rosales has been wanted here in Harris County for more than 25 years, in fact. Fox 26's Donnelly Keith joins us live at HPD headquarters with more on this case. Donnelly.
Using a completely different identity, Oscar Rosales has been wanted here in Harris County since way back in 1996 on a charge of aggravated assault with a knife. And before investigators say Rosales murdered the Precinct 5 corporal, they say he also killed someone in El Salvador and couldn't be caught there. Well, now the man who has evaded arrest for more than 25 years is a fugitive no longer.
The arm of law enforcement has a long reach.
How did U.S. Marshals know to find Oscar Rosales across the border in Ciudad Acuña, Mexico?
It's not a thing that we knew where he was. We were just following the leads.
And yes, today there's technology in other ways.
Rosales, if that's even his name, was flown back to Houston, then escorted by a convoy of cops to a place where law officers now know exactly where the longtime fugitive is, the Harris County Jail.
We pulled resources from the federal government to the state government down to the local government or local entities to be able to capture this violent criminal who needed to be taken off the streets.
In 1995, under the name Mauricio Aguilar Alvarenga, Rosales pled guilty to aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and received probation, which was revoked months later in 1996. But officers haven't been able to find him until they say he turned up Saturday after Harris County Precinct 5 Corporal Charles Galloway was shot to death. Investigators say Rosales is seen on the corporal's body cam footage pointing a rifle at Galloway's patrol unit after a traffic stop, and they say he opened fire.
To sheer just evilness.
Here in his probable cause hearing, Rosales, charged with capital murder, had an outburst shortly before he's told he is not being granted bond.
You want to try to kill me right here? He can do it, whatever. I don't care. You know, everybody right here in this room is waiting for his son to hurt him.
It certainly did not happen in that hearing, but Rosales' death is likely imminent.
The crime of capital murder can only end two ways: in the death penalty or in life without parole. This case has all the earmarkings and is a death penalty case.
Now, Og says Rosales has potential gang and cartel affiliation, and she says they're still trying to confirm his immigration status and even his real name. He's expected back in court at 9 a.m. Reporting live in downtown Houston, I'm Donnelly Keith, Fox 26 News.
Donnelly, thanks so much. And funeral services for Corporal Galloway will be held at Second Baptist Church, the West Campus, on Tuesday, February 1st at 10 a.m. Now, this is open to the public, and a public viewing is scheduled for next Monday from 5 until 8 p.m. That will be at Memorial Oaks Funeral Home, which is just off the Katy Freeway.
Coming up next, worldwide and local memorials on this Holocaust Remembrance Day. Well, Fort Bend County's officials joined with the American Jewish Committee for a virtual Holocaust remembrance service. The service honored the lives lost on the anniversary of Auschwitz's liberation. County Judge KP George says learning history helps to avoid the mistakes of the past.
We wanted to make sure this history we are talking today is not forgotten. About the Holocaust, racism, slavery, crimes against humanity. These all horrible things happen all over the world, and we need to stand up and fight.
Featured speakers included Romanian Ambassador Andrei Muraru and the director of the American Jewish Committee.
After being attacked while on duty, Houston Police K-9 Nate is recovering tonight from his injuries. After the break, we have an exclusive update on his condition. Right now, we are continuing to follow breaking news unfolding. 3 Houston police officers shot following a chase near downtown earlier this afternoon. We learned that all 3 are stable and are recovering at the hospital. We are right now standing by for a news conference from Houston Police Chief Troy Finner. As soon as that happens, we'll bring it to you live.
The man charged with stabbing a Houston police K-9 is charged with murder for the death of his own father. Ryan Smith's father was found Tuesday inside his home, where Smith had been staying since bonding out of jail. Investigators believe